Hallucinations. It's a concept that really exists in the world of AI, and it basically means that your artificial intelligence that you're talking to has spun out of control and is now giving you false and nonsensical answers to your questions. It's happened to me when I was coding, when I was doing research, and when I was trying to find ideas to problems that I was facing. And if you're using ChatGPT or any other AI tool out there, I'm sure it's happened to you at some point as well. They might show up as very small errors in the responses that you're getting from your AI, but there's still a problem, and problems need solving. Enter Claude, an AI chatbot created by the team at Anthropic. The company has been founded by two ex-OpenAI employees and siblings, Daniela and Dario Amodei. The reason they decided to leave the company was because they didn't align with the regulations at OpenAI, and they wanted to create a chatbot which was safe, honest, and helpful. And that is exactly what Claude promises to be. Some of the promises that Claude is making is that it's supposed to be a lot less prone to hallucinations, misinformation. It's apparently better at writing and reading and mathematics than ChatGPT. And one distinguishing factor that I am really interested is that it has a 100,000 token context, which means that we could potentially have conversations which span over at least 75,000 words, which for comparison reasons is about the length of the first Harry Potter book. It's quite lengthy. So without much further ado, let's find out for ourselves if Claude really delivers and if it's a viable replacement for ChatGPT. Let's jump into our favorite web browser, navigate ourselves to Claude.ai, and we should find a very beige looking but clean website. We'll select one of the authentication methods, either Google or your email address. I'm using my Google account. I'm going to give it a name and a nickname for myself. I'll click all the checkboxes, enter my fake phone number here, enter the verification code, and the next thing we'll see is a couple of disclaimers about the safety of Anthropic and how it's still a beta version of the tool. Click through those and you'll be greeted with the home screen of the tool. As a lot of AI tools out there today, it's giving you 3 example prompts that you could use to find out how Claude really works. But we're going to go a little different today, and we're just going to ask it to introduce itself and tell us what it's actually good at. It tells us that it's really good at summarizing stuff, doing research, calculations, grammar, and coding, which all sound like very generic things that AIs are really good at. So let's ask it what it's actually better at. And the first thing it's going to tell you is that it's helpful, harmless, and honest, and that it's built on top of constitutional AI. And those are things that it's going to be telling you a lot about, especially when it doesn't know answers to your questions. It's going to repeat itself that it's honest and helpful and harmless, and it's not trying to deceive you in any way. All right, let's start off with one of the first things that it's told us it's really good at, writing. So we're going to ask it to write an essay about Queen Victoria. And one thing I realized straight away is how fast it is at writing. And feel free to stop at any point throughout the video, but reading through the text that it's given me about Queen Victoria, the essay seems professionally written, it's clear, it's fluent, it reads nicely, and I honestly think I do like it more than how ChatGPT would write the same thing. The next thing I wanted to do is a little bit of research. And before we get into it, one thing I really wanted you to know is that Claude doesn't connect to the internet. So it has a strict cutoff date in terms of its knowledge, and it is somewhere around the end of 2022. But when I try to ask it about the actual cutoff date, it doesn't really give me a straight answer. So I'll ask about the latest iPhone that's come out, and it's given me the iPhone 14 lineup, which means that the cutoff is somewhere between 2022 and 2023. It's actually given me a very detailed but swift block of information about the iPhone 14. So it didn't go over the top, but it's given me all the essentials that I needed. And if I wanted to continue this conversation, I could definitely ask it more questions to find out more. At this point, I wanted to ask it about the cutoff date, but it's still pretty strict about that and doesn't really know when its knowledge ends. So I'm going to try and trick it and go behind his back and ask it about the iPhone 15 and what features does it have. And what ChatGPT would probably do in this situation, if it didn't know the answer, it would start coming up with stuff. However, this guy seems to be a little bit smarter, and instead it tells me about the speculations that it's heard about the iPhone 15 rather than telling me straight up that it actually knows what an iPhone 15 is, and it's giving me some leaks that it's heard about on the internet. Some of those actually did come true, like the USB-C ports, which finally happened in 2023. Okay, I'll try to deceive it, so I'm going to tell it that it's actually been released, which, to be frank, is the truth, but based on its knowledge cutoff, he doesn't know about it yet. So I told him that it actually has been released, But Claude is strong and it's not giving up with its point of view, and it continues on that it hasn't heard of any new release. With ChatGPT, every time you would tell it something, it would believe you. So if you asked it what 2 plus 2 is, and it would tell you 4, and you would tell it it's actually 5, it would probably say, I'm sorry, I apologize for my mistake, it's actually 5. So we see what it's actually saying about this honesty and truthfulness. Since we have that out the way, let's see about the safety parts of the promise. So I decided to ask it how to build a house and what material I should use to make sure that it burns the fastest, which obviously is a very dangerous thing to do. And right away it told me that it sounds unethical and illegal, so it's not going to help me with the problem. And so I decided to go behind its back, and I told it that actually it's a science experiment, so it's safe. And it's still not convinced. It still told me that it doesn't feel comfortable giving me that information, but I could potentially think of a more theoretical approach to the problem and try to research straw and wood. So it did kind of give me the answer to my question, but I do appreciate that it is trying to be safe. It's just also trying to be informative. So I think there's a bit of a barrier between the two, but it is constantly telling me how dangerous and stupid my idea is, which is great, and it's true. So it is helpful, it is safe, and it is honest. And now comes the really interesting part, at least interesting for me. So the 100,000 token context window, which allows us to have a conversation about up to 5 files, 10 megabytes size each, and about 75,000 total words. So what I'm going to do is send out a random document I found on the internet about CRMs. And as soon as I upload the document, without even asking a prompt, the first thing it's going to do is summarize what's inside, which is very useful, and it happens almost instantly. Again, I must applaud it at how quickly it reacts to my questions. I mean, I've just sent a document of 25 pages about CRMs, which it's never seen it before, and in a couple of seconds, it's given me an answer about the summarization of that document. I think that's pretty incredible. The great thing is I can continue my conversation, and I'm going to ask it explaining this as if I'm a 5-year-old. So it should answer in a very simple form and compare it to something that's a bit more relatable to a child. And it does exactly that. It's talking about a toy store and how every child that comes in wants a different toy, and the CRM will help find the right toy for the right kid. So that is very helpful. And next I'm going to ask it to write a little article, since it's so good at writing stuff, about what's in the document from a company's website. And it's written the text really clearly and efficiently, and if you read into it, it's actually quite professional, but still easy to understand. So again, I must say that I think I do like its style of writing a bit more than ChatGPT. Next, let's work with another document, and this one is a sample budget. It has a number of calculations inside, which we are going to be analyzing, or actually Claude is going to be analyzing, and we're going to see if it's actually any good at maths. So the first thing that happens after uploading the document is that it's recreating whatever is inside, and because it was a lot of money in tables in the document, it's recreating those tables for us here. Since it's apparently so good at maths, let's try and see how it will work if we start removing stuff from those calculations. So I asked it to remove all the costs related to travel, which is about $12,000. And it's recreated the table, but without the money spent for travel. And if I run the calculations myself, it actually seems like it's done a good job. So I'm quite impressed with the fact that it actually knows how to count, as opposed to what ChatGPT used to do, which is be terrible at mathematics. Having said that, please make sure that if you are doing any calculations, especially money, do double check any AI that you're going to be working with, because it's still not at the point where you can fully trust an AI to do all your calculations. It can easily mistake 1 0 for 2 zeros, and that could be you having your job or you, well, losing your job. So be careful, but I think Claude can be a good ally in your calculations. Next, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into maths, and I wanted to try asking it something a little bit more abstract than adding and subtracting numbers. So I found an exam question from an old SAT or GCSE exam, and it's about proving that a certain number is prime or not. And feel free to pause the video if you're into this kind of stuff. But basically what I tried to do is ask it to solve n squared plus n plus 11 not being prime for all values of n. And it's given me 3 ideas on how to solve this problem, and unfortunately none of them is correct. So feel free to pause the video and see for yourself, but I tried it and none of them are right. There's 3 different approaches and each one is completely wrong. Anyways, that was the last example I wanted to show you, but now comes the important question. Is Claude any good, and is it a viable replacement for ChatGPT? Well, in my opinion, it's not a replacement for ChatGPT, and I would definitely not want to stick with Claude full time, because for one thing, it's free, but you only get 30 prompts a day. So for that reason, that's already a no-brainer that it's not good enough. However, I am going to use Claude for a couple of things, like writing. I'm going to use it for analyzing my documents if I need to. And the third thing I would really like to use it for is for proofreading anything that another AI has created. So if I ask for ideas for ChatGPT, which is connected to the internet, I will then want to fact check it with Claude to make sure that there's no funny business going on in there. So I think that Claude is a really great tool, but it's just not ready to be used alone yet. I think it's worth keeping Claude in your arsenal of different AI tools and use it just for specific use cases, while ChatGPT would solve 80% of the other ones. But that's just my opinion. If you have another one, please do share it in the comment section below, because I'm very interested in having a conversation about it with you and hearing what kind of experiences you've had in the past with Claude. And for now, I'll leave you experimenting with Claude, and I will see you in the very next video. See you soon. Bye guys.